Welcome to The Witcher 3's best platinum trophy guide and roadmap on YouTube. Of course, this title is self-appointed. It's been a while since I made my last guide, but The Witcher 3 deserves to have one on the channel. This game is of course CD Projekt Red's masterpiece, and what a game this is. An amazing story with an open world that genuinely feels alive. Won't lie to you though, this isn't going to be easy, and it will be time consuming, but it'll also be an incredibly rewarding platinum. I'll only be including the essentials for the platinum. I do think this game is experienced with as little spoilers as possible, but I won't be holding your hand through everything. I'm a married man after all. All I'm going to do is make a journey easier, make sure you don't miss any trophies on the way, because annoyingly, there are a few. So The Witcher 3 is a 7 out of 10 in difficulty. There are difficulty related trophies, no glitch trophies, but there are 10 missable trophies. That's right, 10. No online trophies, and it'll take you over 100 hours over the course of just 2 steps. Like the previous guys, there'll be timestamps down below, and if you follow this video from start to finish, you pop the platinum the same time as I do at the end of the video. This guide will work for all versions of The Witcher 3, although I won't be covering any DLC. Like I said before, I'll try and avoid as many spoilers as possible throughout the guide, but sometimes it is inevitable. So with that in mind, let's go break the limits of the possible. Now drop my beat!
Whoa, I'm a big bag hunter with the bow. She got a big bed, number drop it low. Mama called me and she happy with the grow. Never ever fall for a thotty, that's a no.
So step 1 is to complete the story on Death March and do as many side quests as possible. And in this step, you should pop these following trophies. Keep in mind this is an open world game and you can approach it however you choose, so the pattern you pop the trophies may be a little bit different to mine. Start the game on Death March. This is the difficulty I'll be playing on, and the one to choose if you want to platinum the game in one playthrough. If you want to play on any other difficulty, that's fine. Just keep in mind you'll have to do another playthrough to get the Death March trophy. There is a New Game Plus though, which should make Death March much easier. While in the tutorial section where you're fighting Vesemir, the game will prompt you to end the tutorial. Here, say no, you can smash out 2 trophies. What you want to do first is parry Vesemir 10 times in a row to pop the Kaer Train trophy, then be sure to parry, attack, cast a sign, and throw a bomb in under 4 seconds to pop the What Was That trophy. These may take a bit of practice, but you'll get there eventually. When you're ready, you can end the tutorial. Soon after, you'll have your real first encounter with some ghouls. I highly recommend getting used to using the Gwent sign for combat. It'll save your life more times than you can count. Be sure to have it activated whenever possible. Throughout your time with the game, be sure to check your bestiary often, because on Death March, figuring out enemy weaknesses and exploiting them will make your life a lot easier. Make sure you loot everything you can. The more things you have, the better. If you can't use it to craft, you can sell it to make some money. When you reach a location for the first time, be sure to grab all the papers on the notice board if one is available. Whenever you see a notice board or exclamation mark on the minimap, be sure to interact with them as they give you side quests that will help you level up, progression towards certain trophies, and rewards as well. Just make sure you're at the right level to be able to complete them. I'll be aiming to do as many things as possible in this step, so I'll let you know what to look out for. Also be sure to check your map whenever you're in a new area, not only for notice boards and side quests, but because of other merchants. If you see an innkeep icon or a shopkeeper icon, check to see if they have anything worth buying. I'll be mentioning the main ones throughout this walkthrough, but if for any reason you can't see them, just meditate an hour at a time until they spawn. Most NPCs show up during the day. Gwent cards and quest items are the main things I always prioritize in buying. When you regain control in the tavern, be sure to buy the Gwent cards from the barmaid. Then when you get round to speaking to the people at the inn, answer however you want. But I'll point out, whenever I have an option to use the Axii during dialogue, I use it. Not only does it give you XP, but most of the time it avoids conflict. You'll eventually be roped into playing some Gwent as well. Make sure you win the match to receive the Zoltan Shive card. Get used to playing Gwent. It'll be something you'll be doing often, and there's a couple trophies attached to it as well. Now you can choose to organize your deck however you like from the pause menu. I personally alternate between the Northern Realms and Nilfgaardian deck because of the spy cards in them, but that's just me. Feel free to play Gwent however you wish. I won't be giving any in-depth Gwent tutorials because the amount of decks there are and playstyles are literally endless. All I'll say is keep playing it until you understand the basics. Also try and check the alchemy section regularly to see if you have gathered enough items for potions and bombs. Not only will this be very useful, but it'll also put all those looted items to good use. Now save your game before leaving the tavern, and when you head outside, beat one of the opponents without taking damage to pop the Fist of the South Star trophy. This shouldn't be too difficult. In this first area, I completed all the side quests, points of interest, and main quests available. I like to complete quests from the lowest level and work my way up, but that's just me. You play however you like. I do, however, recommend getting the Witcher contracts done as it's connected to a trophy. I won't be guiding you through every single quest and activity because there's quite frankly a lot to do. I'll just be pointing out anything that has a trophy related to them or anything that's missable. I do also recommend making regular saves as well, especially before you start a quest, and then have a separate file so you can save between quests to give you checkpoints of sorts. That way, if you mess up, you've always got a backup save and won't have to lose hours of progress. Has this happened to me? Yes, it has. Feels worse when you're trying to flirt with your crush but end up roasting them. Anyway, since you're looting everything in sight, be sure to keep your gear updated, including roach. You'll often find armor and weapons better than the ones you have. Whatever you don't need, make sure you sell or dismantle it. I personally prefer dismantling unless there's something the merchant has that I can't afford. Make sure you keep all your Witcher gear though. Basically anything in the green category or anything that starts with Witcher, including your start of the game gear. Keep in mind this gear does not say Witcher gear on it, nor is it green. You'll need them for later on in the game when you find upgrade diagrams. If you haven't got your Witcher gear equipped, you can store it in your stash for safekeeping. You'll sometimes also find notes and books. Be sure to always read them in game as they usually have useful information. When you're doing Witcher contracts, they'll usually let you choose how much to charge people. I always try and get as much as I can because, well, we need money. Just be careful you don't go too far or you'll fail the quest. Probably a good idea to make a backup save before just in case. When you get your first skill point, feel free to spend it on whatever skill you want. The options are endless. If you have the DLC though, I recommend getting the gourmet skill. This skill will make you regenerate for 20 real-time minutes after eating or drinking. If you're like me and haven't got the DLC, then it's entirely up to you. Personally, I went for survival over power. I'd also recommend putting some points into the Axe's skill tree for some dialogue options later on in the game. Also be sure to equip the mutagens you obtain throughout your playthrough. If you open your map and flick the navigation to exploration or all, you'll be able to see everything available on the map. It should reveal all the places of interest you've yet to explore. I didn't leave White Orchid until I completed all of them. Again, I recommend doing this, but it's entirely up to you. However, the rewards and XP you get from these quests will be very useful for the next stage of the game. Now, if you've been looting everything in sight, I can imagine you'll get overburdened quite often. When this happens, be sure to pop on your best gear and then sell or dismantle what you don't need. When you've explored the whole of White Orchid, activate the 5 different places of power at the same time to pop the Power Overwhelming trophy. After you complete the Lilac and Gooseberries quest, you'll pop the Lilac and Gooseberries trophy. Very original. You'll eventually reach Velen, and this is where the main game truly begins. I've given you the basics, so from this point forward, it's all up to you. I'll only be pointing out the specific quests that need to be done in a certain way because of missable trophies, and of course when it comes to popping the trophies themselves. I'm going to leave a final reminder to just loot everything, check equipment regularly, get all those notice boards checked, and complete as many side quests as you can. For now, I'd hold off exploring the question marks unless you're under-leveled, because we can use some of these locations for miscellaneous trophies later on, as well as a couple of missables. Don't go to Skellige until you've done everything you can in Velen, as some of the quests auto-fail. Don't worry though, I'll let you know when it's safe to go to Skellige. First things first, you can buy some Gwent cards from the innkeep at the inn at the crossroads. From all the looting by this point, I'd already read 30 documents, so I popped the bookworm trophy. Don't worry too much if you haven't popped it yet, it'll come naturally throughout your playthrough. In Blackbay, you can buy some Witcher gear maps from the merchant and blacksmith, as well as play Gwent against them for some more Gwent cards. In Midcorps, you can buy some Gwent cards from the merchant and more Witcher gear maps from the armorer, as well as play Gwent for some more cards. For now, I'd save any Witcher contracts you would have picked up until a bit later on in the game. There's an annoying trophy around them that we can smash out easier with a higher level. You'll eventually get around to meeting the Bloody Baron and start his quest line. When you reach Crow's Perch, speak to the merchant to buy some Gwent cards and a quest book offered. You can also beat him at Gwent to earn a card. Further up, when you enter the gates, speak to the armorer where you can buy some books, as well as beat him at a game of Gwent. Then on the opposite side, there's another merchant where you can buy some cards and a Witcher gear map as well. You can also beat him for a Gwent card. After investigating the Baron's family's rooms, you can get some more quests from the notice board. Go ahead and choose the races Crow's Perch quest. Be sure to make a manual save before each race in case you don't win, and choose to bet the maximum amount of coin. Also be sure to equip Roach's new obtained gear after each race. When you reach Lindenvale, be sure to buy a Witcher gear map and some Gwent cards off the armorer and the merchant, as well as beat them at Gwent for cards. There's a notice board in a village with no fast travel post, just southeast of Lindenvale, where you can play Gwent against the merchant for a card. You'll eventually meet Kira Metz and start a chain of quests for her, starting with an invitation from Kira Metz. When you reach for the advancement of learning quest, you need to choose specific dialogue choices to avoid a missable trophy later on in the game. Make a backup save before you start the quest just in case, and make sure you choose what's with the note, then Radovid's not interested in medication, then thousands may die, it'll be in your head, then go to Kaer Mohen, and finally see you at Kaer Mohen. After the quest is completed, you'll pop the Friends with Benefits trophy, as well as avoid a missable trophy later on. At this point, I had a decent enough Gwent deck to play the Baron. Go ahead and beat him to start a Gwent quest, as well as get his unique card. The only tip I have for you here is to have some decoy cards in your deck. Whenever he plays a spy card, be sure to use the decoy, and then play the spy card yourself. Every time you do this, you earn extra cards. Whenever you're able to do this, I recommend doing so against any opponent. The more cards you have, the higher your chances are of winning. After you beat the rest of the opponents in this quest, you should have earned another 3 unique cards. Next time you're in Crow's Perch, be sure to speak to the armorer to unlock the Master Armorer's quest. There should only be one more notice board in the Velen area, and in the Nilfgaardian Army Group Center Camp, be sure to play the Quartermaster to win a card. Keep playing as normal until you eventually finish the Bloody Baron's questline to pop the Family Counselor trophy. Next, start the Gwent playing Innkeep's quest. Now this quest is set in Novigrad mostly, so there's a hell of a lot to explore. So as always, always, make sure you get all the notice boards checked and play all the merchants, armorers, and blacksmiths after buying the cards off them, of course. When I arrived at Oxenfurt, I played the blacksmith to win a card. When I got round to the merchant here, I bought paint for a quest later on and beat him at Gwent for another card. And finally at the innkeep, pick up the toad card from the table, and then before you play, be sure to buy all the cards he's selling. Beat him to get a unique card. When in Conny of the Goose, buy the cards off the innkeep and then beat him for a card. In the Seven Cats Inn, you can buy some Gwent cards and then win for another card. Between the Gate of the Hierarch and the Tretogor Gate, there's a shopkeeper nearby you can beat for a card. You can also buy an outfit here for a quest later on, but we can come back later. There's another shopkeeper just to the right of Tretogor Gate that you can play Gwent against for a card. Near the Gate of the Hierarch, there's a herbalist where you can buy a quest herb as well as play him for a card. Near him is a blacksmith that gives you an important quest. There's also a couple of shopkeepers you can play Gwent for some cards, including a banker that will exchange your currency and give you another Gwent quest. There's a blacksmith here as well, but his deck is pretty OP, so we'll come back to him a bit later on. Just make a note for him for now. In Hierarch Square, there's a shopkeeper you can buy some books off as well as win a card from and a quest. The armorer here has a Witcher gear map, and finally there's a shopkeeper near the North notice board in Novigrad that you can buy cards off, get a quest, and beat for another card. When you're done exploring, finish off the Gwent quest for the rest of the unique cards. Next, start the Gwent Big City players to get some more unique cards. Shortly after this quest was over, I'd collected 12 potion formulae to pop the Let's Cook trophy, as well as enough bomb formulae to pop the Bombardier trophy as well. Again, don't worry if you haven't got these yet, just keep looting, you'll pop them in no time. Remember that blacksmith in Novigrad I said had an OP deck? Well, we're gonna go back to him now and get a card off him. If you can, try to use 3 hero cards in a single round to pop the all-in trophy, although you can do this with any opponent. If you haven't popped the Geralt and Friends trophy yet, be sure to win a round using only neutral cards. These are cards that don't have a banner. I'll leave a link down below showing which cards are neutral, but again, this can be done against anybody. A little tip on the best way to do this: play as many cards as possible in the first round, and if you can, be sure to have more cards than your opponent. Lose the round on purpose, and then in the second round, as long as your opponent passes at the start of the round, just win using neutral cards to pop this trophy. From this point on, feel free to play the game however you want. Eventually, you'll meet Triss. There are a few quests involving her throughout the game, and some of them are missable or lead to missable trophies. Whenever you have a dialogue with her, be sure to be sweet to her to start a romantic relationship with her. At the end of the Novigrad Dreaming quest, when you need to meet Kareen at the Golden Sturgeon, you can buy some cards off the innkeep as well as win at Gwent for another card. When you get around to doing any of the Fist of Fury quests, be sure to save before each fight and choose to bet the maximum amount of coin. This is also a good quest to get the Fist of the South Star and the Kaer and Train trophies if you haven't got them yet. In Crow's Perch near the armorer, there is a woman called Joanna. You could beat her at Gwent for a card. You'll eventually come across a scavenger hunt quest for the Witcher gear. Once you have all the diagrams for one set, be sure to craft it at an armorer and blacksmith, then equip the whole set to pop the Armed and Dangerous trophy. You can also upgrade any existing Witcher gear here if you want. Okay, so if you did what I said and saved up all your Witcher contracts and visited all the notice boards, you should have unlocked a fair amount of them. You can do this with any of the Witcher contracts, but the ones I chose were Contract Patrol Gone Missing and the Merry Widow. I felt these were the easiest ones that could be done early on. Whilst completing these, do not use any signs, bombs, mutagens, oils, or potions. In other words, just use your sword and heal with good old-fashioned food and water. That's it. First thing to do is remove your mutagens in the character screen, and then be sure to make a backup save in case you die or accidentally use something you shouldn't. It can be a bit tricky with some of them, but with a bit of patience, you'll do it. Once you've completed 2 of the Witcher contracts like this, you'll pop the Even Odds trophy. If you chose to contract Shrieker for one of your sword-only contracts, then you'll pop the Shrieker trophy. I personally found this one to be extremely hard to do without the Quen sign, but either way, however you choose to do it, complete this quest for the trophy. With that trophy popped, feel free to complete the other Witcher contracts. There are a couple of missable ones, but I'll point them out when I get round to them. If you're playing like me anyway, then you're only completing quests on your level or below. When you get round to starting the Get Junior quest, it will start a series of quests that need to be done before Skellige, as the trophy attached to them becomes missable. Be sure to also beat Dijkstra when you get a chance to speak to him at Gwent to get a unique card as well as a Gwent quest. Start the newly obtained Gwent quest and beat all the players for unique cards. By this point, you should have access to this shopkeeper in Novigrad to beat him at Gwent for a unique card. There's another shopkeeper here you can get a card from, and another right next to him. After completing Get Junior, you'll unlock a few side quests, and you have a new quest available to pick up from the Hierarch Square. Start it and save before the race. Once that's done, you'll have a few new notice boards, one in Crow's Perch, one in Oroton, and one in Down Warren. So here we're going to complete a few quests back to back. Start by completing the Redania's Most Wanted quest, then an Eye for an Eye. Here be sure to save before speaking to Roach underneath the tree, and do not let Vez die. If she dies, reload your save. Next, complete a Matter of Life and Death quest. While in the mansion, you can play a few rounds of Gwent for some cards. Just be sure to save beforehand. When you get the chance, be sure to kiss Triss. Then start the Now or Never quest. Here, do not let the mages in the house die. If they do, reload your save. When you get around to speaking to Triss, beg her to stay, and then choose I Love You to avoid a missable trophy later on. Straight after this, complete a Deadly Plot quest to set you up for a missable trophy later on in the game. Straight after finishing this quest, there should be a merchant trapped in a cage here. If you've been leaving the question marks like I advised, then this one should still be available. You can smash out out 2 trophies here. Although this can technically be done at any point, try to kill all enemies in under 10 seconds and without taking damage, or using Gwent to pop the Butcher of Blaviken and the Can't Touch This trophy. Like I said, this can be done at any point in the game. You'll eventually get around to a Poet Under Pressure quest. When you finish it, you'll pop the A Friend in Need trophy. Travel over to the Royal Palace in Vizima to win some Gwent cards from this dude sat on the bench, and now start a Dangerous Game quest. At the end of this quest, be sure to choose I'll take the cards, or they'll become unavailable and are missable. Straight after this quest, be sure to play Gwent against Zoltan to win some cards and start another Gwent quest, which you can smash out now. From this point, start saving up 1,000 crowns if you haven't already. You'll need it for the next stage of the game. Feel free to complete any of the side quests and Witcher contracts you have available. Personally, I completed all the remaining quests available in this region that were my level or below before I headed to Skellige, but it's entirely up to you. When you get around to Contract an Elusive Thief, be sure to save the game before you start the quest. If the Doppler gets away at the start of the quest, it becomes missable. Once you've completed it, you'll pop the Doppler Effect trophy. In this location, Novigrad, you can beat the brothel owner for a Gwent card as well. There's also an alchemist you can buy a quest book off and play some Gwent for a card near Elector Square. Now it's time for the first annoying trophy of the game. Head to this spot here near the Orphans of Crookbank Bog signpost where you'll find multiple enemies and gas. Use the Igni sign to light the gas on fire and kill the enemies with it. When they're all dead, meditate and repeat. When you've killed 50 enemies this way, you'll pop the environmentally unfriendly trophy. Keep in mind this can be done progressively throughout the game, so it doesn't have to be done in one go. If you kill any enemies while blowing up barrels, this also counts towards the trophy. Using the gas here is considerably easier though. Next, go to this question mark here on the map, and just before you arrive, create a manual save. In this bandit camp, be sure to kill 3 opponents in 3 different ways. The ways I chose to do this was to kill one with a sword, another with the Igni sign, and another with a bomb. Once you do this, you will pop the triple threat trophy. If you haven't been able to get the Can't Touch This and the Butcher of Blaviken trophies, this is a good spot at this point in the game. After this, be sure to free the merchant in the cage, head to Claywitch, and buy some cards off him, as well as beat him for some more cards. Alright, so we're going to do a bit of save scumming here. Head over to the merchant just south of St. Gregory's Bridge, and buy the Potion of Clearance from him. This costs 1,000 crowns, but if you've been saving up to go to Skellige, you'll have enough. This will reset all your skill points. Now acquire the 6 skills in the miscellaneous tree to pop the Dendrologist trophy. Once this is done, reload your original save. By this point in the game, you should have some version of the Dragon's Dream bomb. Equip it and head over to the different question marks on the map. Light enemies on fire using Igni, and then throw a bomb at them to create an explosion. You can do this vice versa as well if you prefer. If you run out of bombs, just meditate to replenish them. Do this 10 times to pop, that is the Evilest thing trophy. When you're ready, start the Destination Skellige quest. In this new area, there will be quite a lot to do as you'd expect. As always, be sure to visit all the notice boards for new quests, and when you reach Faerland, be sure to beat the blacksmith and the merchant at Gwent for some cards. The merchant also sells a map that reveals fast travel points in Skellige. Whenever you see someone selling one of these, be sure to buy them. They'll save you a lot of time here. In Arinbjorn, you can play the blacksmith for some cards and buy some from the innkeep. In Kaer, there is a blacksmith and armorer you can play for some Gwent cards. I apologize if I'm butchering any of these names. In Firesdal, you can beat a merchant and a blacksmith for some more cards. In Blandair, there's a merchant you can beat for some more Gwent cards. In Svorlag, there's an innkeep you can buy some cards off, as well as a blacksmith and a merchant you can play for some cards. In Uriala Harbor, you can play the innkeep as well as buy some cards from him, play the armorer and the blacksmith for some more cards as well. In Harviken, you can play the blacksmith for some more cards as well as the innkeep. Keep in mind the innkeep only appears in the afternoon, so keep meditating an hour at a time to spawn him. In Larvik, there's an innkeep, a shopkeeper, a blacksmith, and an armorer you can play Gwent for some cards. In Kaer Troll Harbor, there's a herbalist and an innkeep that you can win cards off as well as buy some. When you're ready, go ahead and start the races quests. In Skellige, there are a total of 4 in different places. As always, save before each race, and don't forget to equip Brooch with a new gear you earn. When you've won them all, if you've been following this guide, you'll pop the Fast and Furious trophy. Add some quests to finish off that started in Velen and Novigrad, so went ahead and finished those. Make sure you play Gwent with Lambert to also finish off the Gwent quest that we had to leave. By this point, you should already have some Broadhead bolts, but if not, you can buy some from the blacksmith in Oxenfurt. Be sure to beat him at Gwent for some cards as well. Once you've bought them, make sure you equip them. You should also have some version of the Devil's Puffball by this point, so be sure to equip that as well. Now, the next time you're in an encounter, be sure to bomb an enemy, then burn him with the Igni sign, and finally shoot him with a crossbow. Repeat this 10 times to pop the Overkill trophy. I would advise clearing the enemies and leaving 1, maybe 2 alive to do this. It can be pretty tricky to do when there's multiple enemies coming at you. Again, this can be done at any point in the game. The objective here is to have a single enemy suffer from burning, poison, and bleeding all at the same time. After the initial few Skellige quests, go ahead and start the Gwent Skellige style quest to get some unique cards. When you get around to playing Crack, you can also play as blacksmith in the castle. Also keep in mind you'll need to have completed the Practicum and Advanced Alchemy side quests in order to get all the cards from this quest. Now feel free to play the game as you wish once again, and try to get some of the side quests done as well. Keep in mind in Skellige you can smash out a few of the combat related trophies. In this area of the map here, there will be 2 pirates that infinitely respawn. Perfect for grinding out combat trophies. Hopefully by now you've got the puppet skill. If not, make a separate manual save, buy a potion of clearance, then put as many points as possible in the Axis spell until you get the puppet skill. Now make sure you use the skill so that the enemy kills the other. Worth weakening killing all other enemies first and then choosing one to make an ally so it's easier. When the pirates are dead, all you have to do is walk away and they'll respawn again. Do this 20 times to pop the enemy of my enemy trophy. Again, this can be done progressively throughout the game. It doesn't need to be done in one go. I personally just chose this spot because there are only 2 enemies. In the same spot, you can push 10 enemies off the cliff with Ard for the Humpty Dumpty trophy. Technically, you could also pop the Master Marksman trophy here as well for killing 50 enemies with headshots, but it's up to you. This can be done throughout your time with the game, although I prefer to leave it until you finish the story as it'll be considerably easier. Make sure you clear all monster nests while in Skellige, as there are only 5, to pop the Pest Control trophy. By this point, I'd cleared a few others in other regions, so I popped the Fire in the Hole trophy as well for destroying 10 monster nests. Shortly after this, I'd found 100 fast travel points across all regions, so I popped the Globetrotter trophy. Don't worry if you haven't got this yet, you can always get it later on. When you can, make sure you complete the Possession and the Lord of Unvik quest, which will lead to the King's Gambit and the Coronation quest. Complete this questline to avoid a missable trophy later on, as well as for the Kingmaker trophy. Complete the contract, the Mystery of the Byways Murders, to pop the Fearless Vampire Slayer trophy. Complete the contract in the Heart of the Woods quest. Keep in mind, for this quest to appear, you'll need to trigger a scene while in Fireland. If you haven't got it yet, walk around the village for a bit until a cutscene triggers. While doing this quest, make sure you only speak to Sven in order to slay the beast, or else it may become missable. Once you kill the beast, you'll pop the Woodland Spirit trophy. Next, I chose to complete the Fists of Fury Novigrad quest. Remember, you can save the game before each fight, so you can bet the max amount of money. Although by this point, it shouldn't be too hard to win. Start the contract door slamming shot quest for the Ashes to Ashes trophy, and then next start the high stakes quest for some more Gwent cards. If you've been following this guide, then you should have played all the random people around the world and should only be missing 4 in Novigrad, which means you should have a pretty decent deck and have a pretty good idea of how to play Gwent. Just make sure you save between each game, as these aren't repeatable and can lead to missable cards as well as missable trophies. When you've won the tournament, you'll pop the Gwent Master trophy, and if this was your last Gwent quest like it was mine, you should pop the Card Collector trophy as well. If for any reason you're still missing some cards, I'll leave a link down below to an interactive map where you can find the specific players in every region. Don't forget to also check your Gwent book in your inventory to see what region the players you're missing are at. When you get around to the Nameless quest, once you finish this, you will pop the Necromancer trophy, and once again from this point on, feel free to carry on with the story. Just make sure you equip all 4 mutagens to Geralt when you reach level 28 to pop the Mutant trophy. When you get around to the Brothers in Arms quest, if you followed the guide up to now, you'll pop the Full Crew trophy. Now when you get to the Isle of Mist quest, be sure to complete any side quests on your level or below, as they will be unavailable for quite some time. Once you complete this quest, you'll pop the Something More trophy. When you're able to explore again, start by speaking to everyone in the Final Preparations quest, but do not go with anyone. Always choose to meet them somewhere else, as we will unlock a few different quests. You'll need to do a chain of quests for a missable trophy here. Start by choosing the Blindingly Obvious quest given by Triss. When you get around to talking to Dijkstra, choose the 4 top options. I need her, tell you what the Emperor is after if you let us go, heard it from Emir himself, and let her talk. If you followed my instructions, you will receive the Reason of State quest. Start it, and when you've finished it, if you've been following this guide, you'll pop the Assassin of Kings trophy. Be sure to finish off any quests you have left before jumping on the main quest. When you get around to the Fists of Fury Skellige quest, beat all the opponents. When you beat the final opponent, you'll pop the Brawler trophy. As always, be sure to save before each fight in case you don't win. Straight after this, choose the Fists of Fury Champion of Champions quest. You can beat the Spectre here, but the second time you fight, make sure you lose. Once you've completed this quest, if you've been following this guide, you will pop the Brawl Master trophy. Next, finish off the rest of your Witcher contracts. Keep in mind the contract Griffin from the Highlands won't unlock until you've started the Master Armor quest. When you get around to the contract Missing Son, you'll pop the Fiend or Foe trophy at the end, then finish off the remaining ones, and if you've been following this guide, you'll pop the Geralt the Professional trophy for completing all 26 contracts. Compare your completed list to the one on the screen to see which ones you're missing if the trophy hasn't popped for you. Finally, make sure you have your best armor and weapons equipped, as well as a healthy amount of healing items. From this point on, feel free to play the game as you please. Eventually, you'll get around to the 3 times space quest. Once you've completed it, you'll pop the Xenonaut trophy. During this quest, I also reached level 35 and popped the Munchkin trophy. Don't worry too much if you haven't got it yet. You can always do some more questing at the end of the story if needed. After you finally finish the story, you will pop the King is Dead trophy. And if you've been following this guide and played on Deathmarch, you will pop Pass the Trial, Ran the Gauntlet, and Walk the Path trophies as well. Now, if you've been following the guide, you should only have 1 trophy left, and in this step you should pop these following trophies. You can now lower the difficulty to the easiest one, head over to the spot in Skellige where the infinite pirate spawned, equip the lightning reflexes and the anatomical knowledge skills, unequip your swords, and start killing the enemies with headshots. And you can use Axii just before the headshot to make it easier. Of course, stronger bolts will deal more damage. I'll finish off by saying the headshot detector in this game is terrible. Once you reach 50 headshots, you will pop the Master Marksman trophy, and of course the limits of the possible platinum with it. Well done, legend! You're a true Witcher. Of course, if you didn't finish the game on Death March, go ahead and start a New Game Plus and smash out the story. Also, if you want to see my journey with this platinum, be sure to click on this link here.